What is family? Now, the simple definition is mom, dad, 2.4 kids, and a dog. But the reality is, families, like, I ask my question, like, how exactly do we count someone as family? I mean, brothers, sister, I get all that, but like I do some online gaming. I play a lot with my cousin's son. Now, does that make him family? And here it gets even more complicated. Now, let's suppose he gets married. Is my cousin's son's wife family? And I really got to think about this. A couple weeks ago, our daughter who lives in Marana had a gender reveal party because she's expecting. And so we're going to host at our house. So, of course, she and her husband were there, our son-in-law. And then we had some more family. So all of our immediate family was there. But his parents were there, and his brother, and their wife and kids. So are they family? Like, it's my son-in-law's parents. And so I decided to do a little research and find out, is there a definition of family? And according to Paul R. Amato, who has a PhD in family counseling, is the president of the National Council on Family Relations, this is what he said. At various times in my career, I have returned to a perennial question. What is a family? As a researcher, I claim to study families. But if you were to ask me for a definition of family, I would probably get tongue-tied and mumble something like, well, there are different ways of thinking about it. So if the pros don't know, I'm off the hook. I'm not going to try to tell you what a family is. But regardless of how we might define it, family is important. And some families, man, they're complicated and difficult. In fact, in the Bible, ran into a family. We have one dad. He has 2 wives and 2 concubines. They're like, I don't know what the difference between a concubine as a second-class wife is and wife number 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. But anyway, so there are 4 women, and they have 12 sons by these 4 different ways. So we have a whole mix and match of half-brothers, and we know at least one sister Dinah and probably others. So, you need a scorecard to try to keep up with the whole family. And unfortunately, this family is like lots of families. Man, they are messed up. I mean, messed up. So dad makes no bones about it. He only loves one of these 4 women. Just one. And therefore, he just loves her sons better than everybody else. And he has no problem telling the rest of the boys, I really don't care about you. There's just one son I really love. Not about you, but that's not good parenting. By anybody's definition. And so they're going to get all this kind of, so the 10 brothers, they're not happy that mom's not really loved and they're not really loved. And so they hate and despise and envy the one who is loved. So they take this boy Joseph, who's from the loved mom and is the loved son, and sell him off as a slave to Egypt. Then through a whole course of events, he's at prison and then gets out of prison because he can interpret Pharaoh's dream and ends up being the second most powerful man in Egypt. And now there's a drought. People are starving. So the 10 brothers come to Egypt to buy grain. They don't know that it's Joseph because they hadn't seen him in 2 decades. And so they think he's probably dead by now. And so finally, through a whole bunch of stuff, Joseph finally reveals himself to his brothers. And now he tells them, go back and get your dad. And so in Genesis 46, we're going to read about the importance of family, even these kind of families. So if you turn to Genesis chapter 46, the dad's name is Jacob, but he also goes by Israel, which was a name that was given to him because he wrestled with God. We all know what that's like. Many of you go by multiple names. I'm Paul, Dr. Smith, Opath, that's the best one. Everybody wants to be a granddad. Chicken Man, which is my online gaming name. So we all have lots of names. So he has 2, Jacob and Israel. So Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. Then he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. Now, first and foremost, for any family, the most important thing is worship. Worship should be the foundation of every family. So notice what happened. Israel took his journey. Now, the Old Testament's all about pictures and images. So the word for journey literally is he pulled up his tent pegs. Because you want to go journey, you'll pull up your tent pegs. Now, he's going to take everything that he owns, all his family, and they're all going to head down from where they are in the northern end of what is now Israel and down to Egypt. So how do we move? Well, here's how we move. U-Haul. So you rent the truck, and then you find out who your real friends are the day you load it. And if you are one of those people who has everything boxed and staged and ready to go, you are a rarity. I can tell you both people that I helped move who were really ready to go. Everybody else, it needed extra work. So you find your real friend. So you get the whole thing loaded up. Then you drive, and you cross the entire country. Man, we can cover that in a few days in a truck. And then you arrive on the other end, and you hope you've made some friends on the other end to help you unload everything that you own. So you unload it all, and that's how we move. But man, one like that in Bible times, there is no U-Haul. There are no highways. Matter of fact, when the Bible talks about roads, it's more like we would call a glorified trail. It's just sort of there by use. People have used it. You have to put everything you own on donkeys, camels, and in carts. There's no McDonald's. There's no, hey, let's stop up here and let the kids in the play place for our sanity. There's none of that. You have to take all of your own food, everything you need. And so and traveling with this horde of people and all the stuff you own on donkeys and camels, you got to take all the food and everything. You're only talking about making a couple of miles a day. This sort of journey of a couple hundred miles would take weeks. So Jacob/Israel heads off on this journey, and he comes to Beersheba. Beersheba means 7 wells, and the reason is because at this location you can find 7 wells. Yes, y'all do excellent Bible trivia. So this is the 7 well place. And this is a very important place. And he offers sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. So let's give you a map here so you can see. So the red arrow, that's where Beersheba is located. And Jacob's been up in the northern part of this map, about 2/3 of the map. He's going to make his all the way down to Egypt. So he's covered somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of his journey when he gets to 7 wells, when he gets to Beersheba. And when he gets there, he offers sacrifices. Now, why does he offer sacrifices here at this location? Well, the reason is because in Genesis 21:37, we find Abraham, Israel's granddad, offered sacrifices at Beersheba. In Genesis chapter 26, verses 23 to 25, we find his father Isaac offered sacrifices at... He offered sacrifices where? Beersheba. So if dad and granddad offered sacrifices here, good place for me to offer sacrifices. In other words, this isn't just sort of some random location. He says, this is a good place as any. This place has meaning for his family in terms of worship. And so he offers sacrifices. He worships God. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night, said, Jacob, Jacob. Now, when God wakes people up in the night, it seems like he always calls their name twice. You may be thinking, what is the theological significance of that? I don't know. I think it's just because it's hard to get people up in the middle of the night. Like, Jacob, Jacob. And so Jacob wakes up, he says, here I am. I always find this interesting when people respond like that. The reality is most of you, if God woke you up in the middle of the night and you knew it was God speaking, you'd be thinking, what did I do? Like, I probably wouldn't say, here I am. I'd probably, so he says, look, relax. I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt. I will also bring you up again. Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. I'm God. I'm going to go with you wherever you are. So I want to give some encouragement to parents, but I also want to particularly challenge dads. If mom is the only person that takes the children to church, takes the nice way of saying drag, mom's the only one that takes the children to church, there's a 30% chance that as adults, those children will continue to be involved in worship and be involved in church life. If dad alone takes the children to church, there's a 70% chance that as adults, those children will continue to worship. And if mom and dad take the children to the church, there is an 80% chance that as adults, they will continue to serve the Lord. In other words, it is imperative as parents that we pass on our faith to our children, that our faith becomes their faith. And Isaac has done this. So now, notice what's happened here. We don't show up at church in order to meet God because he's not anywhere else. We show up at church to be reminded that God is everywhere else. That wherever we go, he is with us. Wherever we are, God is with us. And so he doesn't tell Jacob go down there, he says, I am with you. And so the reason worship is such a significant part of family is because we need to be reminded as family that everywhere we are, God is with us. And so this is there's nothing as important you can do as a family as worship. And I just want to say by extension, not just for family, but for individuals, worship is the most important thing we do. This is what we were created and designed for. Not Homo sapiens, which means thinking man. Homo adorans, which means worshiping man. We were created to worship, and that's what we're going to do in heaven forever, is worship the King. And so worship is most important. The second thing about family being important is that, man, we're all unique. Look what he says in verse 5. Then Jacob set out from Beersheba. The sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, their little ones, and their wives in the wagons that Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They also took their livestock and their goods, which they gained in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his offspring with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, all his offspring he brought with him into Egypt. He said, well, who are all these people? Well, I'm glad you asked, because verse 8 is going to give us an answer. Well, 8, a whole bunch of verses after it. Now, these are the names of the descendants of Israel who came into Egypt. Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. We'll come back and talk about that in a minute. The sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Judah, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Issachar, Tola, Puvah, Yob, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun, Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. These are the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Padan Aram, together with his daughter Dinah. Altogether his sons and his daughters numbered 33. So this is wife number 2 in terms of love, but wife number 1 in terms of who he married. His father-in-law got him drunk, and we woke up the next morning, he was married to the ugly one. That's literally what the Bible says. She was weak of eyes, so she wasn't the one he wanted. But that's half of them come from her. So verse 16. The sons of Gad, Ziphion, Haggi, Shuni, Esbon, Eri, Arodi, and Areli. The sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, with Sarah their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 16 persons. That's one of the handmaids. Verse 19. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife. This is the one that he loved. Joseph and Benjamin. Well, that's easy. And to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On, bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Roshi, Mupim, Hupim. I just have to think they're twins. Like Mupim and Hupim just sounds like they'd be twins. And Ard. These are the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob, 14 persons in all. The son of Dan, Hushim. The sons of Naphtali, Jotziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shillem. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 7 persons in all. So all the persons belonging to Jacob who came into Egypt, who were his own descendants, not including Jacob's sons' wives, were 66 persons in all. And the sons of Joseph who were born him to Egypt were 2. All the persons of the house of Jacob who came into Egypt were 70. Now how do we get from 66 to 70? We have Jacob himself, who's not counted, Joseph, who's in Egypt, and his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. That's how we get to a total number of 70. So 70 people who come into the land. So the couple things I want us to take away from this. The first one is verse 10. We have the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jakir, Zohar, Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. Now why is that put in there? It's not about her being Canaanite. It is about her serving a wrong or false deity. There are how many people here? 70. You're like, I didn't count them. That's why it tells us 70. There's 70 of them. 70 people as a part of the people of God. How difficult is it going to be for 70 people to maintain their faithfulness to God and not be tempted by other deities and other religions? Very difficult. And so the problem here is not that she's Canaanite. The problem is that she would have served a pagan deity which would have pulled them away. You know, it's interesting. I've done a lot of research in the Bible, what it says about marriage. And there are 2 things that I've discovered that the Bible really says about marriage. The first one is it talks a lot about marriage and how stinking difficult it is. Now, y'all are nervous about saying amen because you got to go to lunch with this person today. But you know, it's not easy to take two and make them one. You take two things and try to smash them together, and it gets messy. Marriage is messy. It's difficult. It's challenging. And so the Bible talks a lot about marriage because it is difficult. The other thing that I've discovered about marriage is when it talks about the person you marry, there are very, very, very few regulations or guidelines. In fact, I'm going to give to you all the guidelines for who you can marry. Okay. Number one, men marry women and women marry men. Okay, no other options, so that's the first one. The second is believers marry believers. This is important because it's hard for you to live life with God as most important when you're living with someone for whom God is not most important. Beyond that, no more regulations. You're pretty much free to marry whoever you want. Now, I do believe there's a third regulation that's not specifically related to marriage, but is related to what the Bible says about protecting the innocent and caring for them. So the idea of some 40-year-old dude marrying a 14-year-old girl is not biblical. Not because the Bible talks about it in terms of marriage, but does talk about it in terms of us protecting the innocent and caring for them. I thought I might get an amen there from somebody who cares about young children. But really, beyond that, I mean, that's it. So why is the Bible so wide open as to whom you can marry? Probably because if there were a lot more rules, many of you would never get married. Look, it was hard enough for you to find somebody who liked you enough to spend the rest of their life with you. So fewer rules make it possible. That's good news. And so the idea here that she's a Canaanite woman really only has to do with that second principle. That's the reason that it's given. Another thing I think that's interesting from all of this is that they are all related. There are similarities, but each one is unique. They all have their own name. Even if they're twins, Mupim and Hupim, even twins, there are some uniquenesses to each one. Listen, you are a unique person, made exactly the way God wanted you to be. And you may be like other people, but you're not identical to other people. Even if you're in the same family, there are some differences. There are some uniquenesses to them. I think about my own family. In fact, I got a picture here. We got together a couple Christmases ago, and this is my dad and my two brothers and me. Now, you may be looking at that and going, man, they're a lot alike. But not completely. Because one of them is better than all the rest. No. Look at it and go, yeah, it's interesting because there are ways that we're alike, but each of us is unique in what we're interested in and what we're good at, what we've been called to do, the direction our lives have taken. I got as much education as you possibly could. I love teaching, I love studying, I love research. I like that sort of thing. I like cerebral activity. I have a brother who is also a pastor, and we didn't know if he'd ever get out of school. Doesn't like school, not that interested in that sort of thing. His interests is, so even though we're both pastors, our interests and focus are different. And then I have a brother who's in law enforcement for almost all of his life, till he retired a couple of years ago and started a second career. So there, you look at all these people. They're all in some ways similar. I mean, they all are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they're each unique. You are a unique person. And you're special to God. And God gives you calling. And God gives you interest. And so I just want to say to parents, remember, your children, they may be like you, but they're also unique. And it's kind of funny to watch how this works. Because you can see it in DNA. Like, I inherited my dad's bad teeth, so dentists make lots of money off of me. There's some of that. But in our family, we have people who are adopted, and it's interesting. There's no DNA connection at all, and yet they still act like a Smith. Because that's where they were raised. So they kind of got it by osmosis or however you put it, by example and being there. And so you have the idea. But remember, as a parent, your children, each is unique. There are things that make it, but each one is unique. And as parents, we need to really allow them to blossom as the unique person that God has made them. My wife says that we raise 4 only children. Because they're each, it's so different. And so it's kind of cool to see that God's got all these who are similar, and yet there are some real uniquenesses to each one. Then the last thing about family is, like it or not, hey, it's permanent. You're stuck. Look what happens in verse 28. He had sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to show the way before him into Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. Then Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father in Goshen. He presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. Israel said to Joseph, "Now let me die, since I've seen your face and know that you are still alive." Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and tell Pharaoh and will say to him, my brothers and my father's household who are in the land of Canaan have come to me. And the men are shepherds, for they have been keepers of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And when Pharaoh calls you and says, 'What is your occupation?' you will say, 'Your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth even until now, for both we and our fathers, in order that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians.'" Now, I just want to talk about that last part there first. Not a lot of them. To maintain their fidelity to the Lord, it's good for them to be in Egypt, but in their own kind of place. Because if they're just spread out and intermingled with the Egyptians, the chances of this line that is going to produce the Messiah remaining faithful to the Lord is very, very slim. So even though they're in Egypt, by being shepherds, they're able to stay together where they can maintain their faith in God and remain committed and faithful to Him for generations to come. So that's the reason that we have that. But look back at verse 28. Who is now the leader? Judah. He's the fourth son, but he is now the leader. It's very clear, and he'll be the leader from here on out. So since Judah had to get Joseph, they come to the land of Canaan. You know, verse 29, I wonder how this went. It's been over 2 decades. Joseph probably has assumed many times, I'll never see my dad again. His dad thinks that he's dead. I'll never see my son again. And now they show up, and I find it interesting. It says, he wept on his neck a good while. How long is a good while? I'm thinking a long, long time. This isn't some 5-second, hey, how's it going? Like that. I mean, it is, they are reunited. And so they weep for a good, and Israel says, my life is complete. Like, now that I've seen you, I just feel like my life is complete. March 17th, 1973, at Travis Air Force Base, Sal Vader took a picture that went on to win a Pulitzer Prize, and he titled the picture, "Burst of Joy," as Vietnam POWs returned home. Families who thought we may never see dad or husband again. And now he's here. Weeping and joy all blended together. And I just want to say as an aside here, we in the United States of America should honor people who've paid a price to preserve our freedoms here and around the world. And we should never forget what many of our POWs went through. It's not part of the sermon. I just want to throw that in there because I think it's important. So you see that picture and you think this must have been what it like for Joseph and his dad now together. So they're all together. They're all united. But man, they've had a rocky past. It's been difficult. Personally, I believe it's easier for Joseph to be reconciled to his brothers than it is for the brothers to be to Joseph. Because it's harder when you're the one who did the wrong. Sometimes that is for the one who was wrong. And so, but now they are reconciled together. It's been rough. There have been envy, bitterness, anger, hatred, all that kind of stuff. But they're still family. Even though they got 4 different moms and all the other things happen, they're still family. And there's no way they can get around this. I've been a pastor for 36 years. And in 36 years, man, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen some weird stuff. Maybe someday I'll write a book. All the weird stuff I couldn't tell while I was still a pastor. But I've seen some weird stuff. And I've seen some awesome stuff. I've seen people, man, you know, I've been at this church 18 years. We got people graduating this year from high school. Somehow I remember when they were born. I'm the only pastor they've ever known. That's a scary thought. But I mean, it's, you know, and I've seen kids in our church go on to get married, and I've done weddings. I mean, I've just seen some really just awesome stuff. Unfortunately, I've also seen some very tragic, heartbreaking stuff So in 36 years of pastor, I've just seen lots and lots of stuff. But in all those years, there's only one time that I've had my skin crawl. Matter of fact, it's only a couple times in my entire life where something so, I don't even know what the word for it is. It literally made my skin crawl. I didn't even know how to handle the city. It was one time kind of deal. I was pastor of a rural church in South Louisiana. We had a man who was dying of cancer. He had a sister he had not spoken to, had any contact with of any kind for 12 years. And it had been over, their division had been over the inheritance from their parents. And they had not spoken for a dozen years. He had died. Day of the funeral, we get there, and his widow, and I was good friends with most of the family, his widow said, his sister's here. I don't know who told her. Because this was pre-social media days. Nowadays, everybody knows all your business. But knows, it's just like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. I mean, so we do the funeral thing. At the end of the funeral, I dismiss the people that had attended. Said, if you'll go, we had a cemetery behind the church. If you'll go out to the graveside, the family will join you in a few minutes. They would just like to have a little time alone to say their last goodbyes. And so people leave. Family gathers around the casket. I come down with the family, and we're kind of gathering around the casket to say last goodbyes. The only time in my entire life I've ever heard someone wail. And I mean, when I hear it, my head pops up and snaps around. And I see his sister on her knees in the aisle. Oh! I mean, I'm going to tell you, man, it still makes my skin crawl to think about it. It was like, and I mean, she's carrying on. I'm thinking, man, what in the world's going on? And then I realize, hadn't spoken 12 years, no contact, but still family, and it's too late to reconcile. For 12 years, there have been many opportunities to make it right, and she hadn't. And now it struck her too late. Too late. She just went on, just wailing, and I mean, it was like, I'll never forget it. It was too late. These family have an opportunity, they've had an opportunity to reconcile, and they have. So I want to say to you, if you've got family and you're at odds, you need to work this week on reconciling, because the day will come when it's too late. There won't be an opportunity. And I don't want to ever do another funeral where there's a family member there and the whole thrust is it's too late to reconcile. Don't let that be you. Now I want to say a word about this for clarification. And I keep going back to a few chapters before where Joseph tests his brothers to make sure they've not mistreated Benjamin the way they mistreated you. I realize that for legal reasons, for other reasons, reconciliation may not be possible. You may be able to say, I can forgive this family member, but I can never let my children be around them. I recognize that. The Bible recognizes that. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying if you're at odds and you can reconcile, do so. If you do not, the day will come where you regret it. The day will come where you will think, too late. Joseph and his family, they are now reconciled. They are together. So, family is important even when they're messed up. And I'm going to say pretty much all of us have areas in our families that are messed up. All of us. And this family here, they probably more messed up than many. But here's the really good news. There's a greater family than this one, and it is most important. 1 John 3, 1 and 2 says this, see what kind of love the Father has given to us, that we should be called children of God, and so we are. The reason why the world does not know us is that it did not know Him. Beloved, we are God's children now, and what we will be has not yet appeared. But we know that when He appears, we will be like Him, because we shall see Him as He is. In other words, if you have put your faith in the death of Jesus Christ to pay the penalty for our guilt, and you have put your faith in His resurrection to grant to us everlasting life, you are a part of the family of God. I'm a part of the family of God, which means you are stuck with me forever. This is the greatest family. And the reality is, God's family is just like this family here. Sometimes we have rough patches, and disagreements. Sometimes we have to have reconciliation. The reality is we are all unique. I realize not everybody at First Baptist Chandler is going to want to stand at a door and greet people on Sunday mornings. And I know not everybody wants to go work in the nursery and change somebody else's kids' dirty diapers. And I know not everybody is thrilled to pick up chairs and move them, or to set them back out, or to come clean and paint and all this. God has made us unique so that we can contribute to our family. With our uniquenesses, because in some ways we're all unique, but in some ways we're also all the same, because we've all become Christians the same way, by putting our faith in Jesus Christ and being forgiven by Him. And so we can celebrate both our similarities and our uniquenesses. And we need to really work hard at being a family that is reconciled with one another. Not allow things to divide and destroy, because we have an enemy who would love nothing more than destroy our family. And we are not going to let him. Oh, don't make me come down there, amen, myself. We are not going to let him. We are going to be united in Jesus Christ. So we can celebrate that we are a part of His family. We can celebrate that this is a family that will be surrounding the throne, rejoicing and worshiping Him forever and ever and ever and ever. Yes, family is important here and now. But family is also important because we don't sing, "I'm surprised you're a part of the family of God." We sing, "I'm so glad we're a part of the family of God." Our Heavenly Father, sometimes when we think about model family, that's probably a misnomer. Because in reality, this family in Genesis 46 is in a lot of ways a model family. It's a model of what family really is. There are hurts and anger and problems, but there's also forgiveness and love and reconciliation. There is a similarity and yet a uniqueness as we recognize that we're all made by You in Your image. So, Father, I pray that You would help us to work hard on our families, and most of all, to put worship of You number one. As a family, we put Jesus Christ first and foremost. Father, I pray that You would remind us that as believers in Jesus Christ, we are a part of the biggest and greatest family that there has ever been. For it is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.